My husband said, "My parents think you're a burden." And honestly, I agree. I said, "Good to know." I didn't react. But at Sunday dinner, when his father suddenly stood up, looked at him, and asked a question that turned the whole table silent, his smile vanished instantly. I'm Samantha, 35, and until 2 weeks ago, I thought my marriage was going through a rough patch that we could work through. Turns out my husband had been building a case against me with his parents for months, and when I accidentally found out, I decided to let them all dig their own graves before revealing what I knew. I'd been married to Christopher for 6 years. We met in our late 20s, got married after 2 years of dating, settled into what I thought was a good life together. He worked in pharmaceutical sales, made decent money, traveled occasionally for work. I'm a teacher, high school history, which means I don't make pharmaceutical sales money, but I'm not exactly broke either. We lived comfortably, had a nice house in the suburbs, no kids yet, but we'd been talking about it. Christopher's parents, Richard and Patricia, were successful people. Richard owned a commercial real estate company. Patricia was a retired lawyer. They had money, status, and opinions about everything. From the beginning of our relationship, I could tell they thought Christopher could have done better than a high school teacher. They never said it outright, but it was there in the way Richard would ask about my career trajectory or how Patricia would mention other women Christopher had dated who were doing interesting things. About 4 months ago, things started shifting with Christopher. He became more critical about my job, about our finances, about my lack of ambition. He'd make comments like, "Don't you want more than this?" Or, "We could have a better life if you'd consider other options." I tried to talk to him about it, asked what was really bothering him, but he'd just say he was stressed about work. 2 weeks ago, on a Wednesday night, Christopher and I had a fight about something stupid. I'd forgotten to pick up dry cleaning. He escalated it into this bigger argument about how I was unreliable and not taking our life seriously. It ended with him saying, "My parents think you're a burden on me, and honestly, Samantha, I'm starting to agree with them." I just looked at him. "Good to know. That's it? That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say, Christopher? You just told me you think I'm a burden. There's not really a response to that." "Maybe you could defend yourself. Maybe you could try to prove them wrong." "Why would I need to prove anything? I work. I contribute to this household. I'm a good wife. If you and your parents don't see that, that's not my problem to fix." He looked frustrated that I wasn't fighting back. "You're so passive. That's the whole problem." I went to bed in the guest room that night. The next morning, Christopher acted like nothing had happened. I didn't bring it up either, but something had shifted in me. When someone tells you they see you as a burden, you can't unhear it. That Friday, I was home early. Teacher development day. Students weren't in. I was in my home office when I heard Christopher come in. He didn't know I was there. I heard him on the phone in the kitchen, talking to his mother. "I know, Mom. I'm just so tired of it." No, she didn't even react when I told her what you and Dad said. She just accepted it. I think she knows she's not good enough, but she's too comfortable to do anything about it. Sunday dinner. Yeah, we'll be there. I think it's time we all had a frank conversation about the future. I sat there listening, feeling cold. He'd been talking to his parents about me, building a narrative, planning something for Sunday dinner. I didn't confront him. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I called his father. Richard answered on the second ring. "Samantha, this is unexpected." "Hi, Richard. I wanted to talk to you about something. Do you have a few minutes?" "Sure. What's on your mind?" "Christopher mentioned that you and Patricia have concerns about me, about whether I'm the right fit for your son. I wanted to hear that directly from you, rather than through him." There was a pause. "Samantha, that's a conversation I think we should have in person. Why don't we talk about this at dinner on Sunday?" "That works. But Richard, I need to know, do you think I'm a burden on Christopher?" Another pause. Longer this time. "I think you're a good woman, Samantha. But I also think Christopher deserves a partner who matches his ambition and financial capability. You're a teacher. That's admirable, but it's not exactly a path to the kind of life Christopher was raised to expect." "I see. And you've been discussing this with Christopher?" "We discuss everything with our son. We're a close family." "Got it. I'll see you Sunday." After I hung up, I sat there for a while thinking. Then I made another call to my friend Marcus, who worked as a private investigator. I asked him to look into Christopher's recent activities, travel, credit card statements, anything unusual. He said he'd see what he could find. That weekend, Christopher was busy with work stuff. He barely talked to me. Saturday night, Marcus sent me a file. I opened it and felt my stomach drop. Hotel charges in cities where Christopher had work trips, always 2-night stays, always nicer hotels than his company usually booked, credit card charges at restaurants for two, and a name that kept appearing, Andrea Morrison, one of his company's regional sales directors. I spent Saturday night going through everything. Sunday morning, I was calm, eerily calm. Christopher asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. We got ready for dinner at his parents' house. We arrived at Richard and Patricia's house at 5. Christopher's brother, David, was there with his wife, plus Patricia's sister. The whole family gathering. Christopher seemed nervous, but excited about something. Dinner started normally. Small talk. Patricia asking about Christopher's latest sales numbers. Richard mostly quiet, watching me with this evaluating look. I played along, answered questions politely, didn't give anything away. About halfway through the main course, Christopher cleared his throat. "Mom, Dad, I wanted to talk to everyone about something important." Patricia smiled. "Of course, honey. What is it?" Christopher glanced at me, then at his parents. "Samantha and I have been having some conversations about our future, about what we both want, and whether we're on the same page. And honestly, I think we've grown in different directions." I took a sip of water, didn't say anything. Richard put down his fork. "Christopher, maybe this isn't the right time." "No, Dad, it's fine. We're all family here. I think everyone knows that Samantha and I have been struggling. She's content with where she is in life, and I want more. I need a partner who's ambitious, who wants to build real wealth, who can give me the life I deserve." David's wife looked uncomfortable. Patricia was nodding along. I stayed quiet. "So," Christopher continued, "I think it's time Samantha and I seriously consider whether this marriage is working for either of us." The table went silent. Everyone looked at me. I set down my fork. "Are you asking for a divorce, Christopher?" He hesitated. "I'm saying I think we need to discuss it as a family. My parents have been concerned for a while, and I value their input." "Interesting," I said. "So your parents have been involved in our marriage decisions for how long?" "That's not fair." "Seems fair to me. You just announced to your entire family that you want to divorce me because I'm not ambitious enough without discussing it with me first." Patricia spoke up. "Samantha, honey, this isn't about attacking you. We all care about you, but we also want what's best for Christopher." "I don't need relationship advice right now, Patricia. Thanks." Richard stood up. The whole table went silent. He looked at Christopher, his face different than I'd ever seen it before. "Christopher, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." Christopher looked confused. "Dad, what?" "Who is Andrea Morrison?" The color drained from Christopher's face. "What?" Christopher said. "Who?" "Andrea Morrison," Richard repeated. "Regional sales director at your company. You've been spending quite a bit of time with her. Hotel rooms in Chicago, Boston, Denver, nice restaurants. Want to explain that to everyone?" Patricia's head snapped toward Richard. "What are you talking about?" Christopher's mouth opened and closed. "Dad, I don't know what you're—" "Don't lie to me," Richard said sharply. "Samantha called me Friday. Asked me directly if I thought she was a burden on you. When I hung up, I started thinking about some things that hadn't quite added up. Your work trips lasting longer than they should. Your company credit card bills that I occasionally see, since we still handle some of your financial planning." The table felt like it was shrinking in on itself. "So I made some calls," Richard continued, "found out some interesting things." I watched Christopher's face crumble in real time. "Andrea Morrison is married," Richard said. "She has a husband and 2 kids. And according to someone in your HR department, who I happen to know, there have been complaints about her having inappropriate relationships with people on her team. Is that what you've been doing, Christopher? Having an affair with a married woman while telling us your wife isn't good enough for you?" The table erupted. Patricia demanding to know what was going on. David swearing under his breath. Christopher trying to talk over everyone. Tears starting to spill. "Dad, it's not like that." "Then what is it like?" Richard snapped. "Because from where I'm sitting, you've been cheating on your wife while complaining to us that she's the problem, making us think she's holding you back when actually you've been sneaking around behind her back." Christopher turned to me, desperate. "Samantha, please." Richard didn't stop. "I told you Friday that I thought Samantha was a good woman, but maybe not ambitious enough for you. You know what I've been thinking about since then? That maybe the problem isn't her lack of ambition. Maybe the problem is your lack of character." "Richard," Patricia whispered, horrified. "No," he said firmly. "Our son just tried to publicly humiliate his wife at our dinner table. Tried to get family support for divorcing her because she's not ambitious enough, when the real reason is that he's been having an affair. I won't be part of that." Christopher was full-on crying now. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to." "Nothing just happens," Richard said. You made choices. You chose to have an affair. You chose to lie to your wife, to us, to yourself. And you were going to let Samantha take the blame for your failing marriage. I finally spoke. I knew about Andrea, I said quietly. Every head turned toward me. I found out Saturday. I had someone look into things after I heard Christopher on the phone telling Patricia that we needed to have a frank conversation at Sunday dinner. I figured something was coming. Christopher stared at me. You knew? And you came here anyway? I wanted to hear what you were going to say, I replied. What you were going to accuse me of. Apparently the plan was to make me look like the inadequate wife so you could justify leaving for someone better. That's exactly what it was, I said. You've been building a case against me for months, telling your parents I'm a burden, making me look small so you could feel justified in what you were doing. David stood up. I think maybe we should all take a break. No, I said. I want to finish this. I turned back to Christopher. I spent 6 years trying to be a good wife to you. I supported your career. I listened to your parents' constant implications that I wasn't good enough. I stayed patient when you started being critical and distant. And the whole time, you were cheating and planning an exit strategy that made me the villain. I'm sorry, he sobbed. I don't want your apology, I said. I want you to understand that you don't get to rewrite this story. You don't get to make yourself the victim who was held back by an unambitious wife. You had an affair. You lied. You tried to manipulate your family against me. That's the truth. I stood up. Richard, Patricia, I appreciate your hospitality over the years. I'm sorry it's ending this way. David, good to see you. Then I looked at Christopher. I'll be filing for divorce this week. You can stay at the house until we figure out living arrangements, but I want you in the guest room. I walked out, got in my car, and drove home in silence, hands shaking on the wheel. 3 hours later, Christopher came home. I was in the bedroom packing some of my things to move to the guest room. He stood in the doorway. Samantha, we need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. Please, just listen to me. The thing with Andrea, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I was confused, and she paid attention to me, and I made a terrible choice. How long? I asked. What? How long has it been going on? He looked at the floor. 4 months. 4 months. The same time he'd started tearing me down. So you've been cheating on me for 4 months, I said, and spending that whole time telling me and your parents that I'm the problem? I felt guilty, he whispered. I think I was trying to justify what I was doing by making you seem inadequate. That's not an excuse, I said. That's just you being cruel. I know, he said. I know I was wrong. But can we try to work through this? Counseling. I'll end things with Andrea. I'll do whatever it takes. No, please. You destroyed this marriage, I said. You don't get to fix it now that you've been caught. You had 4 months to come clean, to stop, to work on us. Instead, you chose to lie and plan a public divorce announcement that would make me look like the failure. I panicked tonight. I wasn't really going to. Yes, you were, I cut in. You told your mother you wanted to have a frank conversation about our future. You were setting the stage. The only thing that went wrong was your father finding out about Andrea and exposing you before you could control the narrative. He slumped against the doorframe. What happens now? I file for divorce. We split assets. You stay here until the house sells or one of us buys the other out. But we're done, Christopher. Completely done. Your parents know what you did, I said. That's your problem to deal with. He left the room crying. I heard him on the phone a few minutes later, probably calling his mother. I didn't care. The next morning, I called a divorce attorney and started the paperwork. Christopher moved into the guest room like I'd asked. We lived like awkward roommates for the next 2 weeks while lawyers handled the initial filings. About a week after the disastrous dinner, Richard called me. Samantha, I owe you an apology. You don't owe me anything, Richard, I said. You exposed what needed to be exposed. I should have trusted my instincts about you from the beginning, he said. You're a good woman. I let Patricia's opinions about your career cloud my judgment, and I let Christopher's complaints make me think you were the problem. Why did you investigate him? I asked. Something you said on Friday stuck with me, Richard replied. You asked if I thought you were a burden. The way you asked, like you were genuinely confused about why anyone would think that. It made me realize I didn't have any actual evidence that you were inadequate, just Christopher's word. So I started looking into things. Found the hotel charges pretty quickly. I let out a slow breath. I appreciate you telling the truth at dinner. Save me from having to be the one to drop that bomb. Christopher's mother is devastated, Richard said. Keeps asking how we didn't see this coming. I told her we saw what Christopher wanted us to see. How is he doing? I asked. Not great, Richard said. He got fired. The situation with Andrea came to light at his company. Apparently, she's done this before with other people on her team. HR finally had enough evidence to terminate both of them. I felt a grim satisfaction at that. He's been calling Patricia every day, crying about the divorce, Richard continued, asking us to intervene, to convince you to give him another chance. I told him he made his choices, and now he has to live with the consequences. Thank you for that, I said. For what it's worth, Richard added, I hope you find someone who appreciates what you bring to a relationship. Teaching is honorable work. You're a good woman. My son was a fool to risk losing you. The divorce took 3 months to finalize. No kids, relatively clean asset split. We both wanted it done quickly. Christopher tried a few more times to reconcile. He wrote me letters, showed up at my school once, sent a friend to talk to me. I stayed firm. The house sold 2 months after we filed. Christopher moved back in with his parents temporarily while he looked for a job. I got an apartment closer to my school. About 6 weeks after the dinner incident, Patricia reached out and asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed, more out of curiosity than anything. She looked older than I remembered. Samantha, she said, wrapping her hands around her mug, I need to apologize to you. Okay. I spent years making you feel inadequate, she said, implying you weren't good enough for Christopher, pushing him to want more, to expect more. I created the environment where he thought it was acceptable to look down on you. Did you know about Andrea? I asked. No, she said immediately. Absolutely not. If I had known he was cheating, I would have told him to fix his marriage or file for divorce, honestly. I didn't know because I was too busy reinforcing his complaints about you without questioning if they were valid. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you deserved better from us, she said, from all of us. You were a loyal wife to my son. You worked hard. You were kind. You treated him well. And we made you feel like that wasn't enough because you weren't wealthy or impressive enough by our standards. I nodded. I appreciate the apology, Patricia, but I think you and Richard need to figure out why your son thought his worth was tied to his partner's income and status. That's not something I can fix. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I know. We're in family therapy now, trying to understand where we went wrong. Good luck with that, I said. She left. I haven't heard from her since. It's been 8 months since that Sunday dinner. The divorce is final. I've settled into my apartment, and I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. Christopher reached out one more time about 2 months ago. He'd found a new job, was trying to rebuild his life, and wanted closure. We met for coffee. He looked different, smaller, less sure of himself. I've been in therapy, he said, trying to understand why I did what I did, why I sabotaged us. And what did you figure out? I asked. That I was never comfortable with who I was, he said. I always needed external validation. My parents' approval, career success, the right partner. I thought those things would make me feel worthy. When I met Andrea and she made me feel important and successful, I chased that feeling instead of working on my marriage. That's a pretty neat summary, I said. I'm sorry, Samantha, he said quietly. Truly sorry. You deserve so much better than how I treated you. Yeah, I said, I did. Do you hate me? I thought about it. No, I don't hate you. I feel sad about what we could have been if you'd been honest with yourself and with me, but I don't hate you. Are you seeing anyone? That's not really your business anymore. He nodded. Right. I hope you're happy. I am, I said. I'm teaching. I'm coaching the debate team now. I bought a used motorcycle and I've been taking weekend trips. I'm figuring out who I am outside of being someone's not good enough wife. He flinched at that. I really am sorry, he said. I know, I replied, but sorry doesn't fix what happened. It just means you understand it now. We finished our coffees and said goodbye. I haven't heard from him since. Richard sends me a text every few months, checking in. David invited me to a barbecue last month, which was weird, but nice. I went. His wife told me she'd always liked me and was glad I'd gotten out. I learned a lot from this whole mess. I learned that when someone constantly makes you feel inadequate, it says more about them than about you. I learned that family loyalty can be toxic when it means enabling bad behavior. And I learned that sometimes the kindest thing someone can do is tell the truth when it needs to be told, even if it destroys the illusion everyone's been living in. Christopher made choices. He chose to have an affair, to lie, to try to make me the villain in his story. His father chose to investigate and tell the truth. I chose to walk away with my dignity intact. I'm 35, divorced, and more content than I've been in years. I don't have to prove my worth to anyone anymore. I know what I bring to the table. And someday, when I'm ready, I'll find someone who appreciates that, without needing me to be someone I'm not. For now, I'm just Samantha, high school history teacher, debate coach, motorcycle enthusiast, recently divorced woman who dodged a lifetime of being made to feel small. And that's enough.